Nationals leader David Littleproud joins me now from Canberra. Good morning to you, David Littleproud. Congratulations on your new position.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Good to be with you.
Tell me, how different is a Littleproud Nationals party going to be to a Barnaby Joyce party?
Oh, look, we all have different styles. Barnaby obviously brought a lot of colour and movement. I don't have that type of personality. I'm about trying to just be sensible centre, making sure that I'm clear and concise about my policies. So I'll bring my own style and I hope that people will understand it and accept it and obviously work with me and make sure that I'm trying to be constructive, not destructive. Try to work with the government, but try also holding them to account. I think that's what people want in politics. They're sick of it. They simply want some sensible conversation, and I want to try and create an environment on a national stage for Australians to have sensible conversations rather than the extremities take over. I think that's what Australians want. I think we want sensible conversation, sensible policy.
Sensible, that's a word that you've used now half a dozen times in one answer, but you've also used that term sensible centre because the criticism has been that you've had a few people in your party who aren't what you call sensible centre. They're still with you.
Yeah, and diversity is not a bad thing, Lisa. It's actually the time and place in which you articulate that. But our party room will always take primacy, and that's what our party room has got to in terms of much of our policies. The fact that there's divergent views isn't an unhealthy thing. We shouldn't tear down diversity. I thought society wanted diversity and we should celebrate it. And in our party room we do. We're just saying that there's a time and place to express that diversity. But the National Party will continue to bring common sense here and be sensible in our policy settings. And I think that's what regional Australians particularly want. And as part of a coalition that we want to bring to the coalition, chasing extremities won't win you elections. Being sensible will. The sensible centre is where you win elections in this country. And what the Nats will do is bring common sense from the conscience of rural and regional Australia to Canberra, and that's what we hope we'll be able to clearly demonstrate to the Australian public of what we have to offer in 3 years' time.
Well, I'm assuming when you talk about diversity of views, you're talking about members like Colin Boyce and Matt Canavan and Barnaby Joyce at times, but talking about climate change, aren't they the exact views that damaged the coalition's chances in seats that went to the Teals? You're saying you're not going to tell them to zip it, they'll keep being allowed to speak like that, so those seats are out of reach of a coalition?
No, we always want to actually encourage free debate. I mean, why would we want to live in a society that shuts down debate and conversation? But there is a responsibility on all of us to make sure that there's a time and place in which to articulate that and understand that there are forums internally that we provide for those points of view to be put forward and to be tested. But ultimately, it will be the position of the National Party room. That is the primacy of what it is to be a National Party member. The party room has primacy, and that is the position that our party will take in conjunction with whatever that may be with our coalition partners, the Liberals. And while there may be individuals that want to express different views, they also have responsibilities as well to live up to and understand that their actions have impacts as well.
Labor has a mandate now for its 2030 plan for decreasing emissions by 43%. You've backed net zero, but will you back Labor's mandate to increase emissions reductions?
Yeah, look, can I just say for the sake of the country, I think it's a good thing that Anthony Albanese has a mandate. I don't think that it would have been healthy that he had to compromise on some of their values and principles with the crossbench. So I think that's a good thing for the sake of our country. What I believe, and I think what our party room will get to, is we don't believe that we need to mandate or legislate anything. Australians don't need to be told what to do. We're doing it anyway. We had a target of 26 to 28%, and Australians by themselves, by just government putting the environment infrastructure around them, are going to hit 35% in a canter. That's about trusting the Australian public, putting faith in them and industry.
Haven't they sent you a message, though? Haven't they sent you a message with this election vote? Greens, Teals, vote up, support for the major parties and certainly the coalition down.
So then why do we need to legislate? As I just said, the Australian public have done the heavy lifting. We've reduced emissions by 20% already just by the Australian public taking up the charge themselves. Why does the big hand of government have to come in? Why don't you trust the Australian people? They've sent us a clear message. So why wouldn't we let them get on with the job? The job of government is not to be big-handed. It's actually just to put the environment and infrastructure around our people. Give them a pathway and let them do it. We've got to trust the Australian public, and that's what I think, and that's my philosophy as a leader, is that I don't know best. The Australian people do, and ultimately my job is simply to put the environment and structure and then get the hell out of their life.
Anthony Albanese's talked about people being sick of conflict fatigue. You've already suggested similar sentiment in your words today. The Liberal leader Peter Dutton certainly came out fighting yesterday. He's going to take it up to the government from day one. So what kind of opposition are you going to be a part of?
Well, I'll be part of a constructive one, but one that'll hold the government to account, and I think that's what people want. I have a good personal relationship with the Prime Minister. I like him a lot. I think he's a good bloke, but that doesn't mean that I think he'll do a great job for this country, and my job's to make sure that when he doesn't is to call that out, but to be constructive. And I've made it clear to him, in fact I had a conversation with him last night, that my job is to be constructive, particularly around regional rural Australia, that we don't become the forgotten Australians. And that's not an indictment on Labor governments. It's just that it's not really in their DNA. They represent basically metropolitan areas, and the Prime Minister's made it clear that he intends to engage with me, and I want to be constructive, because otherwise the people I represent get nothing, and that's not the right thing and the right way to lead a party and to lead regional rural Australia. I want to make sure that we get our fair share, and I want to work constructively, but if we don't, you'll hear from me. You'll hear from me loud and clear. And
speaking of fair shares, what are you going to be looking for out of the coalition agreement now that you are in a stronger position compared to how the Liberals performed in this election?
Yeah, well, Peter Dutton and I had an initial conversation yesterday, and we'll have some more conversations over the coming week. We'll obviously see where the portfolios land today, and then we'll be making some discussions and decisions over the coming week or so. And obviously I'll be engaging with my party room to make sure that those values and principles that are dear to the National Party are respected, but we respect the fact that we can't win government by ourselves and the Liberals can't win government by ourselves, so a strong coalition is important, but respecting each other's values and principles is also important in achieving that. And if we do that, I'm sure that we'll have a very strong alternative to the current government.
All right, David Littleproud, good to have your company. Thank you.